Welcome, everyone, to Chirping Zebras, episode 50. We're halfway to 100. Mark Riley alongside Gino Binda Jr. and Josh Dolan. We're actually not alongside. We're on the interwebs here, but that's okay. And we have a great guest today, but before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsor, the Referee's Crease, right off the hop. Your one-stop shop for all your refereeing needs. Also want to thank AOA Studios. Even though we're not there tonight in person, they do all our editing, and it's a great place to tape a podcast. So you should check them out up at the Cummings Center in Beverly, Mass. And we've had a lot go on. Last week we had Mike Hanley. I mean, talk about just laughter the whole time.
He was so funny. I never listened to any of his comedy, and he's absolutely hysterical. And the stories he tells was bar none. Like my ribs were hurting halfway through it.
Legendary.
Yes.
Legendary stories. Stories they made me think of your dad a little bit, because some of the stories you're thinking, no way this is real.
He was like a mix of my a mix of my Uncle Aldo and like Ryan Sweeney and my father, just all in one big, try to scam themselves into something. Nothing's free. We're gonna get into this game tonight. We're gonna slide this back door. We're gonna whatever.
Unbelievable. Him being on the parquet when they raised Reggie Lewis's number was just absolutely epic.
Oh, it's awesome.
So, and speaking of the Beanpot, Ryan Sweeney.
Yes, shout out to Ryan Sweeney.
Game one.
Yep. Worked the Harvard BU game. Wasn't much of a hockey game, but to be on the ice and be in that atmosphere at the Beanpot is, especially being a kid from Boston, kid from Southie, it means so much for us as officials to get those assignments. Those are special assignments, and people don't really realize that we're a part of it. The trainers are a part of it. The scorekeepers. When you get those special events, yes, it's all about the players, but we sacrifice a lot as referees, and to get those assignmts, and for him to get it this late in his career, it's feather in his cap, and congratulations to Sweeney. So, and he did a really nice job too.
Neither of those games were really games. I mean, BC tuned up Northeastern. It's going to be a good final. By the time this comes out, the final will already happen. But BC, BU in the final, and that should be a good one. BC is a wagon.
They're awesome.
They are just a wagon.
They're going to win it for fun, I think. Michigan State. I've seen Michigan State play this year. They're really good too. Well coached, disciplined. They play the game real hard. I think they have like 4 losses too all year. But it'll be a good Frozen Four anyway.
Yeah, I think it's going to be BC's year this year. I have a feeling, because their second line could pretty much be the first line on any other team in the country.
I mean, that final last year against Denver, it was a 1-goal game, I believe, and it was a goalie matchup, right? The goaltenders played out of their minds, and with all that talent on the ice to have, I think it was 1 goal scored. Pretty incredible in the goaltending part.
And you know how I feel about the face-offs from last year in that championship game.
Yep.
Denver cheated on every face-off, every draw in their defensive zone, and won every one of them. Yep. And I think that would make a difference. So I'm not letting that go.
No. We'll have Pat DePuzzo on. His son worked the game, so we can hash it out with him.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So that will be awkward for a few minutes, but that's all right. All right. We're gonna bring our guest on. We're very excited tonight for our guest tonight. He's played 7 seasons with the Boston Bruins, and I think epitomized what it is to be a Bruin.
Yes.
That hard nose, that blue collar, worked every night he showed up, and he's here tonight for us on the Chirping Zebras. Kevan Miller, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Good to see you.
Likewise.
But it's awesome to have you on, and I really mean that. Like, when you played, you epitomized what it is to be a Bruin, and not only the hockey team, but the city itself, blue collar. I mean, if you needed to punch someone in the face, you did. You threw your body around, reckless abandon. We loved watching you play. Seriously.
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. I have a lot of good memories, and I appreciate that. I think it was part of the reason where I was able to stick in the NHL was just kind of the luck of the draw that I ended up signing with the Bruins, and they appreciated guys in hockey like how I was playing. So fortunate there.
Well, we talked a little bit before about number 86. You were the first one to wear it, not only for the Bruins, but I think in the NHL.
I don't know if it was the NHL or not, but I was definitely one of the probably on a handful of guys that were wearing it, and that was a funny story. It was like, you kind of back in the day, actually. I mean, gosh, when I first got in, anything over like 40 was considered like a, like, hey, you're getting sent down, kid number. Nobody wore anything above those high numbers. So I kind of come into the Bruins training camp, and they're like, here's 86, and I'm like, oh, this isn't looking good. This is not good here. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things where I didn't even ask. When my first game, when they got called up, it was, you're wearing this number, and I'm like, perfect. And my dad kind of, hey, you gonna change it now? You signed a contract? Nah, no, we're just gonna ride this one out. So I love it. It's great, and and now it's like a cool number. So back then everyone kind of made fun of me, and now I'm like a goal scorer or something. I don't know. Definitely not a goal scorer. I'll wear it.
Well, when we hit episode 86, it will be the Kevan Miller episode.
I like it. No Kucherov, no Hughes,
Nope.
none of those guys.
Nope.
Tell them to beat
No.
I like it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, Gino, you have a pretty funny story with a game that you had with Kevin in the AHL.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this one or not, but I was working a playoff game down in Providence, and the first call of the game, I think you guys might have been playing Wilkes-Barre, and I don't know if it was a triple overtime game or not, but we did definitely had a triple overtime game down there. But first call of the game, I'm behind the net, and you're in the crease, the puck's in the air, and you catch the puck in the air, and you close your hand on it, and then you panicked, and then you threw it out of the net. I blew the whistle, and you looked right at me, and I go, oh, I go, yeah, it's a penalty shot, and you looked right at me and go, fuck. Good luck explaining that one to Brucey. I went over. He lights me up. He's like, for fuck's sake, man, it's the first call of the game. You called a belly shot. So I'm sitting there going, oh, man, I just went over and just took the beating, right? Because, whatever, it's a call. I had nothing else. I have no other option to call. And Kevin Dean's like, you can't call a delay a game? Like, you got to call a shot? I'm like, I don't even know if they scored on it or not. But.
I remember that, honestly. I vividly remember that because I was like, it was almost like I was telling on my little brother, my buddy, like,
right.
Oh, you're going to have to talk to Butchie. Yeah. Oh, good luck with that. I'm not going to explain it. You go talk to him. Like we just broke the TV or something.
I went over and took the beating for you.
That's so funny. Wasn't even mad at me. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm in the middle of the crease. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. It's his fault.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
That's funny.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, Butchie was, oh, man, there was, but I mean,
how'd you like playing for him? Like,
oh, I love that guy. Honestly, I loved him. He was like, man, my rookie season, I absolutely hated him because he was just hard on the rookies, and it was like part of a rite of passage, I think, if anything,
right.
Where like if you can take it, then you're good in my book, and. I love playing for him and love playing for him in the minors. And then obviously in the NHL, he was a D coach for a little bit. And he kind of toned it down because he wasn't a head coach then. And,
right.
And then it was right back up when he was head coach. And, yeah, I love that guy.
You know what?
He's doing really well,
I'm so happy for him and all his success. He was one of the guys that when he yelled a lot. But he yelled at you guys. But, he was just that's how he coached, right? So, you just knew that. And, he never really, yelled at us. He would, every once in a while, it'd be, legitimate, right? When he yelled, it was legitimate. And, it was
the same with us. He yelled, because he cared. It wasn't just, because I'm in a bad mood. It was no, I really care. Mm-hmm. I really want to win, and I care about your development. So if you can filter out the bad and just kind of take in what he's actually saying,
right?
I think that's kind of what he was hoping guys would do, and some guys couldn't, and some guys could, and he was awesome.
Yeah, I was sad to see him leave Boston, but
yeah, that's a funny story though.
Yeah, that's a good one. He goes, we got Kevan Miller coming on. I was like, I got a story for you.
Oh, you better go talk to him.
That was funny, man.
That's awesome.
And the boss was in the building that day too. I remember. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you took the beating for it.
Yeah. Oh, he lit me up. I was like, hey, I went over. I have no other option. It's a penalty shot. I need everybody off the ice. And he's like, I'm like,
I think that series ended up going to Game 5. We ended up winning that one, but that was
that's right.
We had a really good team that year. That was Torrey was down with me. Exelby was there. We had Bobby Robbins and all these guys.
Yeah, you guys had a wagon. Yeah,
had a really good team, and that was a fun year, man. Holy hell.
I always like reffing you guys. I mean, even just being from Boston and just reffing Providence is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Growing up, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, you go out and do a job. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. That's cool.
Well, your career, Kevin, is fascinating because you weren't the kid that, got drafted in the first round and, kind of had everything handed to you. You had to work, it seemed, for all the ice you got, right? And
Yeah.
you worked your ass off to get to the NHL. And it's kind of similar to a lot of what we see and what we did in our refereeing career, But, talk a little bit about, you go to UVM, right? You had a partial scholarship to start. I mean,
Yep.
and then you end up playing, 7 seasons in the NHL. And we'll get into the injury stuff, but I
Yep.
think without that, you would have played a lot longer.
Right.
Yeah, no, I was kind of like that. I don't know. I think everyone, in anyone's career, like even the guys that are, first overall and this, that, and the other, there's some type of like trial or tribulation that they can attest to, like that got them to the next spot. Mine, unfortunately, which fortunately, but unfortunately, had more steps in that process. And for me, like even going to Berkshire, moving from California to go to prep school, like kind of showed up thinking I'm just going to play and everything's good. And, I played JV my whole junior year and didn't make the varsity team. And, and then didn't have any options after my senior year because I only got 1 year of varsity and looking at D3 schools and this, that, and the other, and decided to go back to PG and then, signed to UVM, free agent, undrafted. And, UVM was great for me because it was kind of like an identity spot for me where I could figure out, my coach was like, hey, there's a lot of guys that can play and make a good amount of, money and living being a hard guy to play against. And so I kind of figured that out there, which was great. And would kind of get to the end of my senior season there and had gone to Chicago and Vancouver's development camp, but there's not a whole lot of offers there. And my coach's relationship with Don Sweeney, they went to Harvard together. And
Nice.
he's like, I think this kid could play if he just needs to develop a little bit. And so he, Sweeney's credit to him, took a chance on me, and I appreciate it. And he's awesome. He was great, pivotal in my development, right? Gave me the chances. And so, yeah, I think it was just kind of one of those things where, like my story took a little longer, but I think it made me better for it. And I appreciated every minute in the NHL I had. And, but yeah, it was just one of those things that, at the time, I'm like, gosh, just need a break, right? But it finally came, and then when it just came, it just made it that much sweeter. So I enjoyed the heck out of it.
It's awesome. You definitely, when you work harder for something, you definitely appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And I think, nowadays kids, especially in this refereeing world, they get moved up so quick.
Yes.
I think that's the disconnect between that feeling of gratitude and that feeling of entitlement.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
something that definitely, I think,
That's a cultural thing too,
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, right? But
yeah.
we can
Yeah.
get into that. But that's that's part of it. I think culturally, but yeah, I think it's just so much sweeter knowing like some of the issues you had to get to that. And so, not that it's not for the other guys that are first round picks and everything works great and they're it's great. But it's almost like you want a little bit of failure in order to really taste this, what it means to get there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate stories like yours more so than the first rounders, because none of us were first round players.
Yeah, I mean, first round players really don't pan out either, right? Like, there's a lot of first rounders that they get stuck in the American League. They don't, they can't just crack a lineup for whatever reason, size, wrong organization, whatever. So.
Well, you guys have probably, sure you've seen a lot of this, right? A number of guys that I played with that were, in Providence or just even in the NHL, like guys that were first round picks or, high draft picks or just kind of handed this, that, and the other, signed out of college, like super big free agent, but just never, like, just couldn't, because like their first real kick in the nuts, honestly, was, hey, getting sent down.
Right.
And it's like, well, how do you deal with that? And if you don't have kind of, experiences like that in the past where you can lean on, hey, I just need to get to that next spot, then it makes it tough on guys, especially if you're just figuring that out at 17, 18, 19 years old. It's like, oh, shoot. And, your window there is so damn small in the minors. It's like, you got 2 years, figure it out, kid. Otherwise, like, see it on down the road. Unless you're the kid from Detroit who just played 9 years and made it to Red Wings.
Oh, that was awesome. What a story.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Like, so happy for that guy.
Oh, wow. Awesome story.
Yeah.
How much of it is like politics though? Like networking and like how much? Because like I've talked to like a few of like the Bruins prospects that like I've been like, how did that guy make it, but not you? And they've been like, it's politics. And I'm like,
in my opinion, that's the easy button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's the easy button. There's for sure, like, you know, and I think there's the hard part of that is like there's certain guys, like for instance, like we talked about earlier, like we're Bruins players. If I would have signed with Tampa, I don't think I would have played as long as I would have.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think that they appreciate my game as much as a team like the Bruins did, because they won with guys like that played hard and you know what I mean, and so that was their backbone, and they stuck to the details. They're hard defense, this, that, and the other. Where Tampa didn't win with guys like that, right? They won with a different version of it. So, you know, I think there's kind of a little bit of the right place, right time, like mentality.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, the politic thing is the easy button. I think, like, and then you know, there's guys that are just not, in my opinion, willing to change.
Right.
Where they don't see the writing on the wall, where they're like, hey, in order to make it, like, I need to buck up, and I can't just be like turning pucks over and just trying to score like pasta every night. Like, that only works for a certain number of guys. So if you can't adapt your game a little bit and like swallow your pride, I think there's a lot of guys that say, no, I'm going to do it my way, and if I can't do it my way, well, then I'll find some, you know, other organization. It's like, well, good luck, man. You know?
Because like I've heard both sides of it too. Of like, I remember Lyndon Byers, who I worked with for many years. He was like, there were so many people that deserved to be in my spot that rather than me. But he was like, I just kept showing up and caring, and he was like, that's how. And I feel like
there's
that's
an
kind of
intangible, like there's an intangible part, and that's what I mean, like changing your game. Like everybody is, you know, when you get to the AHL, everyone's like 99.8% there.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you could just separate yourself by 0.01 from the next guy, because you're willing to change your game a fraction of an inch this way or that way, like that's an intangible that most teams will recognize pretty early and go, okay, we can play with that. Like we can figure that out.
Like the attention to
Brad
detail.
Marchand came into the Bruins at a fourth liner playing with, you know, Soupy and Thordy.
Right.
Like
Right?
literally. Fourth line, grinding it out, the whole thing, and then like look, you know. And so that's a guy that, like, you know, and I don't want to pump Marshy's tires too much. He doesn't get that.
That's big enough.
Yeah, we're going to get into him.
He's the same damn guy right now as he was on the fourth line 15 years ago, which is why I love the guy so much. But, like, that's a guy that, for instance, has just said, whatever it takes, I'll play on the fourth line. I don't care. I'll be a total asshole, and I'll figure out my games, you know, my goals later. So I don't know.
One of his last American League games I worked. It was my first game in Providence, and he started a line brawl against Portland. And I went up to him, like he was like, it was like a bunch of scrums, and like after the whistle, I go, hey, like I didn't know who he was from a hole in the wall. Like I had no clue who he was. And I get in his face, I go, hey, someone's gonna knock you the F out tonight. And he's just like, I'm just trying to get back up top. I was like, holy crap. I go, I love this kid. I'm like,
fine, have at it. Like, if that gets me back up, I don't care. Punch my lights out. Like,
yeah,
you know?
incredible, right?
So I think there's just, you know, I think that's a dying breed, man. There's less guys that are willing to swallow their pride to do that in order to make it. And, you know, like I said, the politic for me is like that's the easy button.
Yeah.
So you brought him up. I was going to wait a little later, but the Martian and Milko.
Yeah.
Is that coming out with season 4 or what?
Oh, I don't know.
Is that on hold?
Season 4. I don't like. You know, that was so
great.
That was so. Yeah, it was so much fun. We had so much fun doing it, just because it's like we have that kind of fun in the locker room, you know. But like just to put it on film and us being idiots out there doing fun stuff we like to do, and you know, like it kind of morphed into that. Like we never really were gonna do that because Marshy was really into like wanting to do a hunting show, but you know Nesson's not really keen to let us kill animals on TV. Can't really do that. So we're gonna try something else here. So we figured it out. You know, we got to do some stuff we like to do, but. Yeah, that kind of ran its course. There's only so many competition things you can do, but But yeah, Marshy's, I'm still kind of like doing that for him, just trying to keep it alive. But I think when Marshy's done, he wants to get back into like the film and hunts and adventures and things like that. And, that's kind of his baby. So, I've just been along for the ride, which has been a lot of fun. And we've had a ton of fun doing it, met some great people and done some cool, awesome stuff with, veteran organizations we like to get a part with. But it kind of morphed. And the other thing is like we never really wanted to be an apparel company, like making hats and shirts, but it was like almost like out of necessity. The Bruins found out about it. They're like, hey, we need some gear to put in the shop. Like, get on it. I'm like, okay. So here we are.
We can send them some zebra gear if they want it.
There we go.
Yeah,
some
right.
zebra gear in there.
We'd love that.
Yeah.
I watched one of them where you shot an elk with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And it was wild because you're standing over this thing and it's just massive. And I'm just wondering, like, you didn't film how the hell you got it to the truck or what you did with it. The thing was massive.
That's a funny story. Like that, that was Marshy and I's first elk we killed together was in Colorado. And it was, it was before the season. It was in like end of August out in Colorado. And we called this big bull and he, I was calling for him and he was on the bow first. And we call this thing in. I don't know, you guys know much about elk hunting, but during the rut, they just get all stupid. Not stupid, but like they just get so fired up. So we call this big bull in and he shoots it and we go and he puts one arrow in it, so it's not initially dead, and he wants to get closer to get another one in, so he takes his boots off and sneaks all in there, all Marshy style, and he puts another one in him and kills it. And we're in such a hurry because there's another bull just up on the ridge screaming, and we go out and chase out. And I'm like, okay, but your bull's dead. We're gonna go chase this other one. So I go up there and we chase this other one. We call this other one in, and I ended up missing. But we come back to his bull and we quarter this thing out and get it all ready to go because we're in such a hurry to get back to the ranger so we can come back and chase those other elk so I can shoot one. And we're like, normally like an elk, when you quarter it out and you bring all the meat, like it's, you're probably bringing anywhere between like 300 to 380 pounds of meat out.
Wow.
Jesus.
Right? Somewhere in that, right? It depends on how big the bull is. But normally it's like a 2 or 3 trip. You're gonna go and you'll take a quarter and maybe like a little bit of the neck meat. And each quarter weighs about 75, with the bone in about 65 to 75 pounds. And so we're like in a really big hurry, and Marshy's like, dude, it's only a mile and it's somewhat downhill to the Polaris. I'm like, all right, well, we can do that. So we load up all the meat, all of it, on our backs for one trip.
Wow.
We're just going to go down. It took us an hour and a half to go 1 mile. By the time we got back, we were smoked. We couldn't move. It was like a 2-day thing. We're like, this is the dumbest thing we ever did. Great story, though. I mean, it's a good memory. It was like one of the coolest experiences we ever had, but it was so stupid.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, I got to ask, how do you call an elk?
With a bugle tube. It's a bugle tube, and use a mouth reed, which is like almost like, so turkey calling, you can use a mouth reed or you can use a slate collar, but it takes a little bit of practice, and you use a mouth reed in this tube, and it sounds like a big bugle. You ever heard of elk bugle?
No, I never knew you needed a bugle to catch an elk.
Yeah, it's kind of like during the rut, they bugle back and forth. So like if there's a big bull out there, he'll bugle and you bugle, and then he'll come to you because they want to fight.
Mm.
So when they come in,
Elk Tinder.
Like what?
Like
Kind of
elk
like
Tinder,
elk
but
Tinder.
for fighting.
Yeah, just like that. I don't know,
Just swipe back.
or anything, but
So
It's
the
pretty
rut
hard.
is the rut like mating season, or is that
it's when like
all
the
right.
cows, like the cow elk are all hot and heavy, and like they're all going to estrus, and then the bulls, they want to herd up all the elk or all the cows, and so like if there's another bull trying to get at their cows, they get all fired up and they want to fight. And so like you can like go out there and like break branches and make all the noise like you're a big bull. It's a trip.
So you don't have to be sneaky. You can just
It's like, man,
go
it's
out-
like, yeah, if you just want to, they have really good, like, they can smell you really well, so you want to be, downwind. And so, like, if the wind blowing in your face, they'll come, right to you. It's crazy.
no kidding.
Yeah.
So it's not like deer where you have to sneak up
that's
and
the cool thing. It's kind of run and gun. You're moving around, you're hiking your ass off. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's
That's
very
wild.
physical.
Yeah.
It's the fun part.
I didn't know.
Because I
something
mean-
surfers,
Just if anybody asks, just tell them it sucks because
Yeah.
we don't want any more people in the woods.
You know what? Well, we're not. The three of us aren't exactly hunters when it comes to the wilderness. I mean, we've done our share in bars, but not out in the woods.
Yeah, a little different.
so-
you know, same
That's
thing.
not
bit.
before, yeah.
I've used a
gun.
bugle once. I'll be
There you
honest with you. But yeah, it's fascinating because
Yeah.
it's a world that, you know, if you're in it, you're in it. But if
Yeah.
you're not, it's kind of hard to, you know, understand.
Yeah,
right?
for
And,
sure.
and I think the bow hunting is more impressive because, you know, a gun, I mean, you know, a gun is a gun. It's kind of
Yeah.
an unfair fight. But a bow and arrow, man, that's like I'm sure. Is it the placement of the arrow in the
Oh
belt
yeah,
that takes
there's a
them
lot
down?
there's a lot that can go wrong. They got a a big kind of like a heart, lung, liver, and you got to hit it in that area, and it makes it's certainly more challenging, but it's when you get it done, it's a lot more rewarding because I like to be closer to the animals because I like seeing them. They're just awesome to look at and be around and the whole thing. So when they're that close, it's pretty special.
Is that your favorite thing to hunt? Elk?
Or mule deer, elk or mule deer for sure. Yeah, because they're they're pretty wily. They're called like kind of mountain ghosts, and man, they're just tough. So yeah, anything that's just gonna make you feel miserable after chasing them for about a week, I'm into.
A mule deer. I've never heard of a mule deer. Is that
Yeah,
like
mule deer.
is that like literally a mule and a deer hooked up one time and now there's a whole herd of
I
them?
don't know where they got their damn name from, to be honest with you, but they're like they're bigger than whitetail, like quite a bit bigger than whitetail. They're a different subspecies. They're kind of in between whitetail and blacktail. Their antlers are wider and bigger. They're different. They're just a different species. I don't know the history of where they kind of actually became mule deer, but that's for somebody a lot smarter than me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never heard of it. I mean,
I think they're west.
I struggle with dog
they're kinda-
breeds.
I think the easternmost they go is like Nebraska, kind of mid-Nebraska, Kansas area, and then they start hitting into like the Colorado, and then they don't go past. I don't think they go into like west of, I'd say, like I-5 in California. So like everything from the kind of that section, that's where they live. Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
we wouldn't have seen one on 495.
Definitely not see one on 495.
If you did, it escaped from a zoo.
If you did, yeah.
Going
Please
to
call me.
Yeah. Although I did a show down in the Raccoon Club in somewhere in Connecticut, and they had all kinds of shit on the wall.
Random
You know,
stuff.
an African sable.
Oh, jeez.
You know that I think they shot at the Danbury Zoo, and they had just. They had everything on the wall. And I'm supposed to go back there at some point. I'm going to check out, see if they have a mule deer.
If they got a
I'm
mule
sure
deer.
they know what it. They hunt everything down
Yeah.
there. Apparently, I don't know, but hunting is fascinating to me. Have you ever gone like on like big game, like elephants or anything
No,
like that?
I
Or
don't really have an appetite for that, to be honest with you.
okay,
I like the North American stuff. I've done elk, mule deer, whitetail, black bear, moose, caribou, turkeys, antelope, coyotes, wolves, things like North America. I like being close to home. And then all this stuff, to be honest with you, like besides like the predators, where like a wolf or a coyote, everything else, like if I can't eat it, I'm not going to shoot it.
Right.
Like, yeah, so like I like eating it. My kids like eating it. My family likes eating it. So if I don't really like to just shoot. It's like more of the predator thing though is like I kill the coyotes and stuff because they'll eat our chickens.
Right.
and what's an elk taste like? I had venison once.
It
I've
sucks.
never.
You guys don't ever want to try it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even. Oh man, it's.
So you're not taking me hunting when I come
I'll
out
take
to
you hunting.
Montana?
I'll send you.
Is
I'll
that-
send you guys some elk. Actually, like my wife shot her first bull this year. She shot
Nice.
a cow last year. She shot her first bull, and so we killed a couple bulls this year. And but man, it's like the most. I don't know. Are you a guy like put it this way? Are you a grass fed beef guy, or do you like your marbling in there? Like,
I honestly
a
don't
heavy-
like. I don't eat red meat. I'm a chicken and turkey guy, so I'd have to defer to Josh and Gino on this one.
I'm a
like,
chicken
like
and
you
turkey.
like
guy.
a big ribeye with like full of meat, like fat in there and the whole deal, or you're like, oh, a little bit, but like I'm more of a grass-fed beef guy.
I like them both.
Like them both. Yeah, there's a place for both.
I think when I do eat red, like I'll have a steak once, twice a year.
Yeah.
When I do, I like it real lean. I don't like.
lean, like a fillet.
Yeah.
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 I don't like I don't like fat.
So imagine like a fillet that's much more tender, and like literally zero fat.
Ooh. All right.
Like not a single thing of fat on it, and like the most deep dark red meat you'll ever see. I mean, it's like, yeah, I can't explain. It's really good.
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I'll give that a
Blow your
go.
mind. It's really, really good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, now I gotta.
Protein
now,
content is higher. Like all the nutrients in it are higher. I mean, compared to your normal beef steak.
So like you eat elk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I know Joe Rogan talks about it all the time, and he always talks about like the health benefits and like you feel better. Do you feel better after you eat elk?
The crazy thing is like I'm not segue into injury and recovery. For me, I saw a huge difference between when I was injured, when I was eating wild game compared to beef.
Really?
100%. Yeah. 100%.
No,
Wow.
no, why do you think that is?
Like I said, like the protein is higher per ounce than a beef. You have a higher protein content, and then you also have like all of the micronutrients and everything. The iron's higher. All of those, like your general like all the vitamins and minerals that you would normally get in a beefsteak that's been fed whatever is not even close to what a wild game like actually has. So for me, it was just like I could feel the difference. I could feel the difference like on a workout day where, hey, I was having chicken, or hey, I was having this beef that I was having before, compared to wild game, like especially over a consistent period of time when I'm doing that regularly. It was just night and day.
Can you go back and watch some of your old fights and be like, I had chicken that day, or like that was an off day?
I wish I would have found the wild game kick earlier, to be honest with you. But no, yeah, like
a nice piece of elk before you go out and play.
I can certainly tell you that there are times where I was like on a heavy dose of pre-workout, and I could watch the game, and I'm like, shit. I should not have taken that much pre-workout.
What they recommend, a piece of steak and a baked potato before every game, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, that was definitely a thing.
Yeah. Steak and potatoes.
Well, now I have to add another thing to the Chirping Zebras list to do.
Yeah,
I'm going to Alaska to sack tap a moose, and now I'm going to have to go out. I'm going to have to go out with you.
While you're
have
up
to go out
there,
with you
put it
and
on
shoot an
the
elk.
schedule.
I got to shoot an elk now and have an elk steak.
You're running
So
a marathon. You're running a marathon.
I got to run a freaking. I got to run the Boston
Who put you
Marathon
up to that?
too.
Are you actually doing it?
I was the idiot that said it was on my bucket list, and we had Becca Peasy on. I don't know if you know Becca. She trained Big Z to run the Boston Marathon.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
she ran 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents.
That's going on right now. It's live right now.
Twice.
They're in like
Is it really?
Yeah, they're in like their 5th day. Go follow her on Instagram. It's wild.
Oh
It was just in
She,
July. Yeah.
She sent us a picture from Antarctica
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Chirping Zebras hat on,
awesome.
which was really cool.
Really.
Yeah, but she's like,
It's
I don't know,
absolutely
for me,
incredible.
one of the most amazing athletes I've ever met.
Yep.
And stupidly, I said, "Oh, my bucket list was always to run the Boston Marathon," and she was like, "Oh, I'll train you. We'll get it done." I'm like, "You don't understand how bad my body is beat up," and but I got to run the marathon now.
If Big Z can do it,
Yes.
Oh yeah, because I'm in the same shape as him.
well, I'm just saying. I'm just telling you, right? Like that guy, and he said the same to me. He's like, Millsy, no, you could do it. He's like, you can. I've always thought like, yeah, I'll jump in with you. And he's like, no, you would love it, man. You'll love it. And I'm like, oh man, I go to the gym and I run like a mile, and I'm like, I'm hurting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A marathon is a long drive.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously.
I think the only chance I have is if I sack tap a moose at the starting line
Yeah,
and then
he's
maybe
chasing
you
me.
chase me.
Chase.
And I don't know. That's my. Maybe I'll do that. That'll be good content, won't it? Why is there a fucking moose running down Beacon Street?
Why is he chasing that
Never
guy?
know. Could happen. So you bring up injuries and stuff. I mean, I thought I had a lot of injuries throughout my life and career. You've had a couple of tough ones, but you came back from every one of them.
You know, the crazy thing was, is like I think I broke a couple little bones when I was playing as a young kid. Nothing crazy, fingers and toes and stuff. And then even I made it through all the way into my senior season without missing a single game in Vermont. Like no injuries, no concussions, no nothing. And then I blocked a shot and broke my left finger, pointer finger, and missed like 4 weeks in college, and that was it. Like never missed a game. And then like made it to the pros, and like everything was going pretty well. Like I missed a few in Providence, but nothing bad. And then and then I had my shoulder issue in Boston, but came back from that. And then it like towards the end of my season, for some reason, there was just like a cloud over me. And there's nothing I could do about it. It's like, no matter how freaking hard I trained in the summer or what I did or this, that, and the other, there was just like, I was just not catching a break, man. And I don't know, like God's purpose, whatever it was, I don't know, but I wasn't going to bitch about it. And so, man, it's certainly the one that hurts me the most for sure is the 2019, missing that, like Stanley Cup. Like,
Right.
I think, I don't know. I don't want to say we win it because I'm in the game, because I don't think I'm that much important. But I think
I'll say it.
I'll
say it.
Yes, I'll say it. Yeah.
I'll say it.
think I
That was
would've
a
helped.
huge loss for them. You not in the playoffs that year. That was massive.
Yeah, I think I would have helped a lot. So that's the one where like everything else, like whatever, like it's part of the gig. But like missing that was just, and like I just had I don't know the story too much, but my knee thing was just like totally, total fluke play. Like me and like Genoway or Minnie and we're going back for a puck, and we just clip ankles. Like, I don't know, like clip ankles. And I go into the boards, and like, sure enough, I'm like, hit my knee. I'm like, it's really not that bad. I got off. They pulled me off. They take a look at it. Everything's moving just fine. I'm like, hey, let's just be cautious. Well, okay, well, I want to go back out and play in the next period, make sure everything's good, and then you can pull me if you want. And I go back out, skate a couple shifts, and I'm like, and we'll just wait. There's only 2 games left before playoffs start. Like, we'll pull you. You're good. I'm like, all right, cool. They're like, well, let's just go take some X-rays just to be sure. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. Like when they're like, hey, dude, your patella snapped in half vertically. I'm like, what? Like, I have full motion in it. Nothing. Like, it's totally fine. They're like, no, your patella's broken in half. And so like the whole story kind of goes, and I get surgery the next day and the whole deal, and clearly, I'm like, hey, we have a really good team. I'm like, I got to get back. Like, we got to get this fixed, like, now. We flew back that next night. I'm like, I was in the surgery room at 8 a.m. the next morning. Like, we're going. So, okay, we're getting this thing rolling. And thankfully, like, when it broke, right, it broke vertically so that, like, it still tracked together. Like, when it flexes and whatnot. I'm like, so it stayed together. And I'm like, oh, perfect. So they're like, yeah, 4 weeks or so, you can start kind of, like, moving, see where you're at. And, like, you'll be skating at like 6 weeks, but that put me on track, if that was the case, to be back for like game 2 of Stanley Cup final. I'm like, sweet.
Right.
Boys, just keep going. We're good. Like, I'll be there. We're good. So 4 weeks comes around. I get the X-ray. They're like, well, it's clearly broken, but you're making good progress. Like, how's your mobility? I'm like, I got full range of motion. I'm walking. I'm talking. Everything's good. They're like, all right, well, let's move you up. We're going to start skating. You can just go out and lightly skate at about 4.5 weeks. So, Sweens and the boys brought me along for North Carolina game, second round, and they wanted me to be around the team, so like the guys are going out for pregame skate, and I'm going to go out afterwards. So I'm freaking warming up, like just warming up, like riding the bike and like stretching and getting things going. And my strength and conditioning coach is sitting there, and he's like kind of putting me through some exercises. And literally, I'm just like, to my right leg. I'm on my right leg, and I'm like leaning on my right leg and lifting my back leg. So all my weight's on my right leg. And then it literally sounded like a balloon popped. right along the screws. I got 3 massive screws that were holding that thing together. Right along that middle screw, it snapped in half vertically or horizontally. My whole knee just buckled. And I'm like, excruciating pain. And I kind of scream, like, what the hell? And everyone's like, there's like 3 dudes there, and everyone's face just went completely white. And so, like, I didn't know what happened at that time, but clearly, we go back into the training room, and guys are just getting off the ice, and they're looking at me, and it's like, holy shit, what happened? And unfortunately, that's just, it snowballed from there, right? Like, missed that whole season. Try and get back, ended up tearing my quad tendon in that same area off that patella, chipped the bone. It was just like fucking nightmare. Right. So, gosh, man, it's just, that's the one that, and then sitting up there for Game 7 at home, Bruins are playing, I'm like watching the freaking dream of a lifetime go down the drain. Just, that's the one that hurts. But such is life,
That Game 5 I could have had at home. That Game 5. You guys had that. Man.
Yeah, that sucked.
Like, I remember talking to the referees that worked that series, and, like, you guys, like, battled a ton of injuries. I was like, did they just get, like, they were the better team, but you guys just got hit with the injury bug. It sucked.
It did. It was an injury bug, and, like, we just, and we got pushed around a little bit, and, like, without, guys really, gripping their stick and not pushing back, and, that's part of my job, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but.
I remember the text chain with all my Celtic buddies, all that kind of crap, talking back and forth, and like, I need Miller out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you would have made a huge difference in that series. I really do.
Yeah.
And I don't say that just because you're on the podcast. Seriously, like, you were a huge loss in that playoffs. It was just a shame that, that happened.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Like I said, that was whatever God's plan was. So I was up there just fucking miserable watching that show. Like, oh my God. Just like, oh man, that one took a while to hurt. Like, it's still like, yeah, but it is what it is.
Like, I mean, we can only imagine as a fan, right? Yeah. It hurt, and it still hurts to even talk about it. I can only imagine as a player, and as a player watching, it's gotta, I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah, that was a tough locker room to go into after that game, man. So
now, I gotta ask you, did you never got a shot to get back at Orlov for that high hit, did you?
He texted me after the game.
Did he?
He did, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He texted me after the game, and he's like, "Hey, man, I did not mean to do that. Like, I apologize. Like, I was trying to hit you in the chest, and you know what? And I've looked at it 1,000 times, and this angle that way, the other, and I don't want to, like, I'd never wish it on anybody or whatever, but like, I just about called George Peros and like let him have it, because like I'm like, I got hit in the jaw,
right?
Clears. I'm out cold before I hit my head on the ice, like out cold. And he called me multiple times on times where I tried to be as clean as I could. Like, I never really tried to take liberties against guys and keep my elbows down. But there were some times where he called me on some very, like, suspect, like, little plays, this, that, and the other. And Orlov never got a phone call for that. And so, that really rubbed me. And it's not Orlov's fault at all, right? Like, I think that's a hockey play. It happens like that. And he called me. He texted me. He's like, man, I certainly apologize and the whole thing. But the thing that pissed me off was like, you're not even going to call the guy, and I'm out cold on the ice,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Especially when, like, the player safety, all the head contacts, everything, like, you want to protect the players. That should have been full.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like, at least have the conversation and be like, hey, right. I know he's coming across the ice here, but like, you got to keep that elbow down, and
right.
but that's hockey. That's part of it. So that really wasn't the one that pissed me off, to be honest with you. Sucks that that's my last game there, me laying on the damn ice, but it wasn't Orlov at all. Like, it's just, that's part of hockey. But I just wish, like, man, because it was, and we ended up winning that game, right? But I think, like, it was just kind of like a turning point moment where they could have done a better job.
Right.
100%. Now you fought some pretty heavyweights. Delorier, you fought Tom Wilson, right? Prost. who was my favorite fight to watch was when you just absolutely tooled up Tage Thompson. After that, you threw a great hit on the sidewall, right?
Yeah.
And it was a clean hit, great hit, and Thompson comes in and what a mistake.
You know, like I don't really like. I never really before like this. There were times in like the minors where there was a little bit not staged, but you know, like I knew it was coming, and you know, a little bit in the NHL, you can see like, okay, the guy kind of taps you, and we're gonna do this and the other. But like those ones that happen like that, I don't really, honestly. The lights were off. Like I don't really see who's in front of me. I don't really care who's in front of me. Like if you're gonna do this, it's like, all right, let's do it. So I didn't know Tage at all. Like I didn't know he was a goal scorer. I didn't know who a player he was. I had no idea. It's just like there's a guy in front of me that wants to fight me, and he just kind of ran into crates, and I'm like, perfect. So like the lights go out really quick, and it just happens. And then after we got to the box, I look over, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, hey man, was that your first pick? You know? I'm like, I'm so sorry, dude. Like I didn't know like what your situation was. You know, and he's like, no, I asked you, we're good and this and that. I'm like, all right, man, but I don't, you know, like I don't want to be the guy known as like beating up on kids that don't like have any idea what they're doing, you know. But it just like there was nothing I could do at that point, you know.
It's hockey. It's a lot of friction.
I was seeing red at that point, and so there was just no like I didn't even know who it was. But it was kind of funny because we had a good convo. And then he goes and just like after that fight, he just lights up the whole league, you know. So good on him, you know.
Yeah,
He lit the.
He
Bruins
just had
up
a
for
hattie.
three- Yeah, he just lit the bees up for
Yeah.
the night.
He's been having. I mean, that guy's. I think he's a great. I played against him. I remember him honestly more when he was in St. Louis, which is strange because he wasn't like that. Wasn't like his time, right? But then he gets to Buffalo and he just starts lighting it up, and so kudos to him. But I appreciate the fact that a guy like that, like, you know, would even just initiate. I think he was searching for a little bit of grit in his team, and so good on him. But yeah, most of those fights when they happen like that, I don't even know who, because I've done that before. Like Kruger got hit, and I think I fought some kid, Bjorkstad or something like that, and I don't know if he's a fighter, but I just again like the gloves were off before I even knew who it was, and so sometimes that happens. It's part of the process.
Well, it happened to you a couple times. I think you smoked Tanev with a great hit, and Adam Lowry not jumped you, but you fought Lowry, who's a big boy. And we've talked about it on here before. It seems like every big hit now, a clean hit. Like both those hits you threw before those fights were clean.
Right.
I mean, they were great shoulder checks.
Yep.
And on those big hits, you understand the cheap shots and people going after people, but those big hits that are good hits, it's like that's when I get annoyed that now you have to fight and you get a 5-minute penalty for, it's like you shouldn't have to fight then because you shouldn't have to answer the bell there because you did nothing wrong.
Right.
I wonder, like, I personally didn't mind it because I enjoyed the fighting part of it.
Right.
If I'm being honest, like that's a freebie. Okay, let's do it. Awesome. I didn't have to face it. Like awesome. That's perfect. Great. But I can understand that from the side of like I think there's like I don't think Lowry would have done that if that was like Grizzlick.
Right.
If Grizz would have just laid Tanev out like that and done it, I don't think Lowry would have done anything. Because number one, I think Lowry's a stand-up guy, for sure. Like, as clean as they get, right? But I think maybe the other guys would. But I think that, I know what you're talking about, where, like, now every hit is considered a, like, fight-worthy and this, that, and the other, which I don't think is fair. In playoffs, it's not the case, clearly. You can't do it in playoffs. So, like, you see guys getting blown up in playoffs. And I wish a little bit of that, like you said, would translate to the regular season. But, I think it's kind of like guys who are now willing to make those big hits almost like have to be ready to fight. And if you're not, then you don't do those hits.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's unfortunate.
And the instigator penalties, it's significant, right? It's like
I know
it's ridiculous.
I don't like that. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but the instigator thing, I think it's so stupid.
I agree because it almost it's almost doing the reverse effect where it's not protecting the players where
not at all.
I feel like it's the reverse effect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the instigator. Just call them 2-5s and call it is what it is. Like,
Right.
that's
They're
part of
willing
it.
combatants. They dropped the gloves. They went, and
Exactly.
they're adults. They they know what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
And, let them rock and roll.
I don't like that at all.
Especially on a cheap hit. Like you throw a cheap hit or you go after, the team's goal scorer, you should have to be responsible and the other team shouldn't be penalized more.
Right.
That's what frustrates me. Like I think in my pro career refereeing, I think I might have called one instigator when the guy was literally jumped. He didn't even have a chance to get his gloves off and he was getting whaled. But,
Fine.
those other
That's
times.
fair.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm actually curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this because, like, I don't think where do they I don't know like the rule book in this regard how this like process works, but the NHL, right? For instance, obviously somebody sat in a room and we're like, let's do this, and this is the reason why. Do they ever converse with you guys about that, where they say, hey, this is what we're going to do? Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Or is it just like, hey, here's a new rule that you need to do this? Because I would love to hear what the NHL has to say as their reasoning behind, let's do this instigator penalty because X, Y, Z.
Well, there is a process for it, and I know the NCAA how they run it because I sat through it, and they have 3 committees. They present all these new rules. They go through them. Like they just changed a ton of rules. So I was kind of involved in the process as a supervisor, just giving some input. Where the rules editor, we'd have meetings once a month. We go over all that. Like he had a list of all the new rules that were presented that they wanted to change. And there was a lot of language. It was 75% of that book this year. The language changed. Right. So it was a long process, and then like even coaches were involved, administrators are involved, and the committee is made up of D3 men and women, D1 men and women. They got coaches in there. They got a referee that's just there as a consultant, but they don't, a guy that's live is in there as a consultant just to kind of whatever. And I was on that for 2 years. That was kind of cool just to be a part of that process. And then things get voted on, and then, they have a committee that passes or fails these requests as they come in. So, like, there's some really off-the-wall stuff that gets thrown around in there, and you're like, holy crap, like, and they just get voted off. So, like, it has to get voted, passed, and then there's a big, long process of it.
But so say you have a bullet point on that thing, right? Like X, Y, Z, these rules, like, do they have, like, hey, for this rule, like this is going to do this for the game?
No, well, let's put it this way: they changed the options for hit from behinds and head contacts this year. You have a minor option where before in college hockey, every hit from behind a play is getting
automatic,
right?
Yeah,
automatic. So, like referees got creative. Like you call a board minor when like the kid really shouldn't get thrown out for the kid turning last second getting plastered. In pros, it's probably not even a penalty. Right?
Yeah.
And in college hockey, you would throw the kid out. And, like, why are we throwing a student athlete out when the play delivering the hit really didn't do much? So that was talked about from, like, supervisors, coaches. Everybody was kind of in agreement on that. And then the process went, and they put those options in. One that's... Go ahead.
I wish they were... like, for instance, for that, just for instigator, I wish they were like, hey, we're going to implement this, and this is the reason why, because it's going to do X, Y, Z. Yep. Like, I wish they were more transparent with that, because, like, I have no idea why they put that in. They just, like, 1 year it was there, or 1 year wasn't there, and the next year it was there, and it's like, all right, well, we're just going to follow this shit because it makes sense in our regard, right? But they never gave any public explanation for it as, like, we're doing this because we think it's going to do this.
I feel like it's a lot of trial and error, too, right? Like, they'll start out with something, right? And then they'll go, oh, we like this, or we don't like this, and then they've changed it before and all that kind of stuff. Like the crease rule, they got wicked, creative with it, and then they kind of just narrowed it right down to what they mirrored what the NHL was doing. So it's like pretty similar to what the NHL calls it, and that's smart. And like they forget the guy's name that was in it, but the NHL guy, he was involved in those meetings as well as a consultant, and I think they might have some type of similar process, but at a way higher level. And I bet you they do that kind of stuff, what you're talking about, where it's like, hey, we're going to do this probably, a lot of it's like player safety. And, and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't really translate. You're like, oh well, that didn't work, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, if you're just going to
Yeah, the
blankly say like instigators, now it's like this is player safety, and it's like, well, not really. If anything, you're actually making these guys more vulnerable because now they don't want to fight because this guy's going to freaking be in the box now for 17 minutes or whatever,
Right.
and like you got to deal with that while this guy just chopped your best player in the face.
Do you
Right.
think they put
Yeah,
something like
I
the
think-
instigator in so that it's to like deter players from fighting? Like, oh, I don't want to get
Absolutely.
be a minor penalty.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Originally, they put it in
It was,
to take away that guy getting jumped, and I think the idea behind it was scrum at the net, guy pokes the goalie, and next thing you know, he's getting pummeled.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think
That's the goal.
I think they're a little fraudulent in the whole player protection thing because now, they're trying to get fighting out because society thinks violence is bad and all this shit. But back in the day, Gretzky didn't get concussions because no one took runs at him because they knew they were going to get the ass beat by McSorley or Baumgartner, right? Now, Crosby's had more concussions than anyone, than most of the fighters.
Right.
And it's because I can take a run at Crosby and I don't have to answer the bell because if I answer the bell and you jump me, you're going for 17 minutes. And if I turtle, I might not even get a penalty because half the shit they don't call anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't like it at all. And I think it's fraudulent. It's their way of showing society, we're trying to be, we're trying to get fighting out of the game. But in actuality, they're opening up the players to more injuries.
What's that documentary, The Guardian or something? It's about all the fighting.
Yeah,
It's really
Ice
good.
Guardian. I agree
Yeah,
with
Guardian,
that.
yeah,
I
I was
agree
in that
100%
too.
with your statement on that
Yeah.
for sure. Because there's no like if the reality is guys get concussions way more from hits than they do fighting.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality. Like most guys are not even getting hit nowadays in fights, right? Like there's not so
Right.
I don't know. I think that's such a cheap way to like get hot or get fighting out. It just I don't know, doesn't check out.
And I don't think, it, and I don't want to say they're non-hockey people, right? But, marketing teams probably aren't
There's
filled
certainly
with
a
guys who
faction,
play.
you could say it. They're not hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, all
Like,
right, they're not hockey people.
Yeah.
All right, and those are those are the people who are saying like, we can't have fighting because X, Y, and Z. But fighting has a place in hockey. It has a purpose. It always has. And I'm not talking the stage fighting and all that bullshit. That's pretty much been removed, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe in the the minor leagues, it's still there to a certain degree, but
It's penalized.
in the NHL, you don't have stage fighting anymore, really, at all. But if you take a run at your goal scorer, someone should be able to beat the shit out of that guy and keep him honest.
Brad
And
Marchand, for the past 12 years before, he was that guy. The reason he didn't get his head off
Right.
because he had guys on his team like Z and Thordy and Quater and Horton and all these guys that like, okay, you're gonna take a run at Marshy? Like, all right, there's 17 guys that'll line up and like punch your face in.
Right.
Right.
Marshy on any other team would have been like his head taken off 1,000 times. But that guy could run his mouth to anybody and say anything and do anything and have no recourse whatsoever because you're gonna have to answer the big man. Like,
Right.
I don't.
And that's the way it should
Proud to
be.
have, yeah.
That's
exactly
the way it should be.
Absolutely. I wish guys like Sid had that. I wish guys like Connor McDavid had that. Like they deserve it. 100%. They should have carte blanche to that whole freaking ice, and it's probably better for the fans and for everybody else to see him score 10 goals instead of 8 because he got whatever you want to call it because he didn't have somebody he had to go cross check a guy in the
I was gonna
face.
say that,
because
yeah.
his guy on his
Yeah.
team can't do it.
Right.
Yeah, and that you bring up a good point because when that happened, I think that goes to a couple things. One, what we're just talking about. There's not someone that can come over the boards and beat the bag out of the guy, but also the refereeing right now in the NHL is very subpar, depending on who you have on the ice. Now we always say Chris Rooney, best in the NHL, good friend of ours. You got your Wes McCauley's, you got your Danny O'Rourke's, but a lot of the new guys suck so bad that a guy like McDavid, he doesn't trust them to protect him.
No.
So if he has to take it upon himself and cross-check a guy in the face, and that doesn't happen if you have, players that trust the referee is going to protect them. And that used to be the way it was back in the day And now I think that's gone to a big degree based on who's on the ice, and it's a big problem.
How nice would it have been for McDavid to just get up, put a big smile on his face, and go, "Hey, buddy, good luck with that guy."
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
seriously. Hey, just get up, shake his head, laugh it off. Like, all right, dude, like, whatever. Good luck next shift. Because
Yeah,
I know
like
this guy's going to come over the boards, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to tap you right on your shoulder and go, "Hey, bud, take your gloves off, or I'll take them off for you."
I love that video of Derek Boogaard when he did that. He was on the bench and like the whole crowd is cheering, "We want Boogaard," and he's just shaking his head like I'm gonna come
I'm
off.
coming. That's what you're going to try that again, or I'm going to throw you in the stands. Like I don't know, because McDavid feel like he has to do it himself. Like you said, he's not getting protected by the refs, and he's not getting protected by the guys on the squad. And I don't know. I just
And
Yeah,
it's
it would be-
definitely playing.
He's gotten killed this year.
yeah, he's got killed. I watched those guys.
absolutely-
He's getting pulled, pushed, jerked in this right, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" I don't know. It's frustrating.
And again, fraudulent in the sense that, we want to open up the game. They brought, they wanted to get rid of the clutching, the holding, the grabbing, the
Great
interference.
spot as far as that's concerned, but
Yeah.
all the other crap.
But it's gone right back to, like, now a guy dumps the puck in, and it used to be the defenseman, couldn't even touch him, right? Or else it was a penalty because they went through that stage where, okay, you can't interfere the forechecker. Now it's almost back to the way it was, early 90s.
Yeah.
Guys are getting smoked.
Right.
And, guys are stepping out of the lane, and it's not
Those
getting
puck
called.
retrieval plays are dangerous, right? Like
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
extremely
dangerous.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
the other thing, it's probably dangerous because guys aren't worried about going in and running their best defenseman. Because why? I don't care. I'll take the 2 minutes while that guy goes clutches, grab his knee. It's like, I don't know. There's
And
a
not
healthy-
even it may not even get the 2 minutes. That's what frustrates me.
yeah.
You
Oh,
see
maybe.
these hits and you're like, how the fuck isn't that a penalty?
Yeah.
Or they call a major so they can go look at it on the video and then come out and say there's no penalty in the play.
and you're like,
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Huh?
how?
You went
How?
to nothing, right?
They were so bad
And-
in the ECHL not that long ago, and I texted both you guys a picture of the ref, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this?"
I mean,
I know.
they
I know.
sucked at my daughter's U9 game too the other day.
But you assigned them.
Oh, not the ones in Maine.
Oh, okay. I love Gino. I got a bet with Gino how when he's going to get tossed off the bench coaching, and the guys that are out there reffing are the guys he employs.
he's the one who's
I
signing
got my
up.
referee shirt on.
He's like, just wait till next week's meeting. I'm coming after you.
You're
Oh
fired.
yeah, it's happening. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
it's
they
gonna
called,
happen.
they called a goal that didn't go in, and I guess they were bad. I was watching on live on because I was on the road, but yeah, they were horrible. But hey, it's a U9 square game. Who cares?
That's the
Get
place
that
to
fun.
learn. That's
Yeah,
fair. That's
who cares?
Yeah.
figure it out there.
Yep.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of interaction with refs when you were playing?
Yeah, like yes and no. I think because I was so like I wasn't a guy like Marshy who could kind of like pull myself out real quick and like throw a quick joke in or like this, that, and the other. I was so kind of like this the whole time that like zoned in that I don't, half the time I didn't even know my coaches were talking to me, And so I think towards the end when I got older and I was able to kind of like look, smell the roses a little bit, like the injuries were one, especially towards like my last season where, man, I was just like so grateful just to be back at practice again that like just trying to talk to everybody I can. I had the most fun playing in my whole life my last year in the NHL because it was like just like enjoying every second. So yeah, I think I spoke with a lot of the refs at that point towards the end of my career, and they were always really good to me, and I think even after fights and things like that, like I think they saw that I was not trying to be a dickhead and just trying to do it the right way, and so and most the funny thing, and most you guys know, most of the guys that I ended up fighting or this, that, and the other, I like either talked to a lot or had beers with, or just appreciated their game just as much as anybody, and so there was never like a really hostile one. There's two that I wish I would have fought that were hostile, but we don't have to get into that. But the rest were always, really good to me. And I obviously you probably had a number of guys on, but like Wes was a guy that like, man, there were so many moments where I was so dialed in and like not even paying attention to what's going on that he would say something that was hilarious, and it would take me like 20 seconds, and then I'd turn back to him. Like, did he just really say that? Like, and he's got a big shit-eating grin on his face, just waiting for me to realize what just happened. So, like, it's just like I loved that. It was a lot
That's the
of fun.
fun part of it, right? Like you got to have some fun out there, man.
Yeah, it's just really, we had some fun, but it took me a while to figure that out, to be honest with you.
So
one of my, go ahead.
I got a question for you. Like, you played your whole career in Boston, and I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of players, tend to stay in Boston. Like, what is it about? Is it the city? Is it the organization? Like, I feel like a lot of people, like every captain, they always stay here afterwards, or they're here their whole career. Unless if you're Ray Bork and you're chasing a cup. But
I think
he came back though. He came back. Yeah,
he did. I think the Bruins just do a really good job, character and like culturally, trying to identify the guys that they really want to have in the room. And that's I don't want to like kick any guys that got traded in the teeth, right? Because that's just part of business.
Yeah, right. That happens, but
it's a part of it, right? Just whether the guy was a good player or a good guy, not whether I'm not going to kick anybody in the teeth, but I'm just going to say that like they do a really good job of identifying those guys at a younger age. That like, hey, we're going to really pour into that guy, and we're going to keep him around because he's good for our room, he's good for our team, he's good for the city, he does the right things on and off the ice. Like they take a lot of stock in a lot of things besides just scoring goals, and so I think the city appreciates it, but I think there's the guys appreciate that, and then once you're there for so long, if you're going to be in a big city, Boston's in my opinion by far the best one.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be in a big city, Boston's about to be the best one by far. So guys see that as well, and they go, well, I'm raising my family here, and then the fan side of it, like. It's like you win 2 games, you're going to win the Stanley Cup. You lose 2 games, it's like trade them all. They suck.
Yes, right.
So it makes
do that right now. Trade everybody.
Exactly. They're going through it right now. It's like, oh, they're back. 2 games. They're like, oh shit, they lost. Trade them all again. We're done. But no, it's like it makes it like really, really easy to get up for games and like really fun to be in the city, like because it's
that's awesome.
You lose the noise of the the crap, whatever. Like
right.
But the good stuff you really want to like the good stuff that has merit to it, like walking down the street and the guy's like, man, you worked your ass off last night, like thank you, I can't wait to see you guys play next game.
That's awesome.
Like, that's the stuff that like you really tank to the bank, and like that's what made it so fun to play, and so like I think kudos to the Bruins organization, and with Sweens and Cam, they're getting ripped apart right now, but like guys, like 2 years ago, they had the best season in NHL history.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna have seasons where stuff doesn't go right. I'm telling you, like it can't go like that every year. And so,
right.
I love those guys. They were awesome to me, and they gave me all the rope I needed to hang myself. And but they were great.
And I feel like just being involved in the college hockey world. I feel a lot of the kids that come to Boston are former captains or assistant captains, and like they do seek out that leadership and those leadership qualities, and I think that's important too.
It's been good for them. They've had that recipe where like I think they've put less stock into the draft. They really have, because it's really hard. I never went through the process, but it's really hard to just have like one interview with a kid and be like, you know what? Yep, he's our next guy.
Right.
And so without knowing, you get to talk to the coaches or like this, that, and the other a little bit. But I think the Bruins have, and their scouting staff and the whole thing have got a lot of guys out of college and pulled a lot of guys out of college hockey because they have such a tangible like connection to that.
Right.
Where they can say, hey, I talked to their coaches, I talked to their advisors, I've talked to the guys that are on the team with them, like I've followed them for 3 or 4 years, whatever it may be, that they feel so much better about dumping the time and effort into a guy that may already have the qualities that they think, rather than trying to pull this kid out of whoever and just really hope it pans out. Like it's a tough thing, and it's probably getting tougher every year just culturally where we're at. Like
Right.
I don't want that job. No chance. No thanks.
No. It's
Now,
Go ahead.
oh no, I wanted to bring up something that I know you're real passionate about, and we met at the Warrior for Life game, where the whole team came back together,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. I mean, it was a
fun.
great night, other than me getting shot by a Navy SEAL
Oh,
and
God.
breaking my ankle. But other than that, I'm actually skating tomorrow for the first time in 2 months.
Oh, heck
but
yeah.
Nice.
you know, so I'm back. But that Warrior for Life Fund is such a huge thing that is so important to so many guys like Frank Simonetti and you yourself. I know you've done a lot with it. Just share what it's like to be a part of that and be able to give back to the guys that are the reason why we're able to do podcasts like this and you know, and watch hockey games and do all the stuff we enjoy to do.
I'm glad you touched on that. I mean, that's something that's super special, and it's also something that like I got into while I was still playing, which was great, and then really had something for me to be a part of now that I'm retired. But you know, it's always been something that's very important to me is just supporting our military, and so. Military first responders, but you know, specifically military, and a lot of that, you know, comes from some of the relationships I had as a kid that I grew up with. So I grew up with his name's Tyler Hawkins. He's a still active NSW guy. He exposed me to a lot of the team guys, like the SEALs and whatnot, right? So that's how I got in touch with a lot of the organizations. I was with the SEAL Legacy Foundation when I was still playing, and then got connected Warrior for Life because it's, I mean, in my opinion, what's better? You get the hockey side of it, you got the military side of it. You just merge two things that I'm super passionate about, and so it was a no-brainer to get involved in. But then to see kind of like the tangible, you know, and you met Ryan Crowley and those guys, and the tangible connection for those guys to like be a part of a game like that where they're huge hockey fans, but then consequently on the other side, all these guys that like I played with have such tremendous respect for those guys and what they do and what they've done for our country, whether they're American or not. Like they're able to play in the United States and do the things they love because of those guys specifically. Like it's extremely tangible. So it's something that it just, there's nothing like it. And so, you know, we did a big dinner on Friday where like I was able to coordinate having like almost like a road night out with just the boys. We're like, hey, we're on the road. Well, we're not. We're in Boston. But hey, guys, we're bringing everybody back together. We're gonna go out to dinner, and we're gonna have all the Bruins alumni guys that everyone loved playing with and reminisce the whole thing. But hey, we're also gonna have all of these SEALs with us, and we're gonna go to dinner, and we're gonna converse. We're just gonna like all these. It was funny because like in the beginning of the night, it was all the Bruins alumni guys just catching up, this, that, and the other, and all the team guys over here just kind of catching up with each other. And then like after 2 beers, it was just kind of like started to like mix, you know, and then like 3 or 4 beers in and guys are asking all the questions that they really want to ask the guys about, right? Like I got 1,000
awesome.
questions I want to ask all these SEALs, and they got 1,000 questions they want to talk to, you know, Big Z and Thordy and all these guys about. And so it just turned into like a really awesome night. And then the game was just, you know, unreal. And those guys are just, I mean, it's funny because, you know, they're active duty or retired SEALs, but they all play and skate and like they're awesome athletes and the whole thing, and so it's just a cool dynamic that I'm just really honored and fortunate to be a part of.
Yeah, Captain Crowley was on twice on the podcast. He came on with Frank, and we had our own, you know, regular episode, and then he was on that Friday. We were over at Warrior the day before the game, and we had a great time. Seidenberg came on, Ferentz,
Boychuk.
you know, Boychuk, they were all for Andrew Alberts. It was a lot of fun. And, but yeah, for me, those SEALs are like the superheroes, you know, like, you know, I always say an athlete, name a sport, you know, any one of us could go out and do it. Maybe not do it well,
Yeah.
but we could do it. I know I can't do a 5-mile swim in the middle of the ocean.
No.
That's the other part of it. Like for me, everyone kind of puts everyone puts athletes on their walls or pictures of whoever, right? Like these kids growing up, they got pictures of the athletes. Like, but for me, and I know I can speak for a lot of other guys that like for me as an athlete, those are guys that I would love to just put up on my wall. Like those guys are just they're I've. My buddy took me down to Coronado and he put me through the Oak Course. He put me through the Trail of Tears, this whole thing. And he just crushed me. Like, just crushed me. It was in the middle of summer. Like, I was young. I was 25, 26 years old. I'm, like, working my ass off, like, peak physical shape, I think. He takes me down there and just destroyed all confidence I had in myself. and I just, it was like the most humbling experience of my life, and I was like, man, I just have so much respect for those guys and what they do, and I got a lot of buddies now that are in it, and yeah, like kudos to those guys, and it's just to be a part of something like that is just super special.
Yeah, and when me and Riley were down at the Warrior Ice Arena the day before when we had all those guys on the podcast, it was really cool for. Well, I like you say, humbling, because being around like Boychuk and all these big guys in the Navy SEALs and stuff, I really realized how much of a pussy I am.
We knew that already.
But
it's all right. No, it's so cool to be a part of that and get to know those guys, and I liken them to hockey players in a way that, I've met very few pro hockey players that are assholes, right? Like, I mean, they're out there. Don't get me wrong, but a majority of them, like no one that played that day for the Bruins alumni team, they're all fantastic, salt of the earth guys, right?
Yep.
And on the other bench, you got all these Navy SEALs who, at Chris Willie, who shot me.
Yeah.
And I busted his balls. I'm like, I thought you could fucking aim. You're a SEAL. He set me up. This coin thing they call the bones, and then he sent me this pair of Gator shooting glasses that are insane. I'm afraid to wear them because I'm going to break them. But the note he sent me, like I still have it, and it was like he had to apologize 17 times. And he finishes with, again, I'm really fucking sorry, right? And I'm like, it's just part of the game, But, of course, he had to be the biggest one out there. Yeah. But they're just great guys, and it's just such a cool thing to be a part of. And, and hopefully it'll work out that because you're involved with the whole thing in Montana, correct?
Yep. So like that was not honestly. So I live in Montana now full time, and that was not my idea. So I'm not taking credit for any of it. That's all Crowley. He works up here, and he's like, destination. We want to go to a place where we're going to do it, where guys can go and connect, and then also like go do some really cool stuff afterwards. So it just worked out that it's going to be an hour from my house, and we hope to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there'll be 12 NHL guys, but we'll do three teams this time. So, and the cool part is like on Friday, so it's going to be July 4th weekend, but on Friday, which is July 4th, we're going to do like, there's a kids skate, family skate, kind of gentleman skate. And then, we're all going to go to a big bar and we're going to draft the teams.
Oh, sick.
It's going to be epically hilarious. Nobody really knows, and then we're gonna do a gift for the guy who's drafted last.
There you go.
It'll be fun. And then like on Saturday we'll have 3 teams, so like one will play 2 will play 3 will play 1, and then there'll be like a little bit of like a championship game, and then like barbecue out and kind of July 4th weekend it. So it'll be kind of a really cool, wholesome event. And we're also bringing some Army guys on, some SF guys, some Green Berets and Delta guys that are gonna come in and be a part of it too. So we're open it to a little bit outside of just the Naval Special Warfare community.
That's awesome. I mean, it's well, I told Ryan I'd come out and do a comedy show for everyone too.
That'd be awesome.
We'd do that, and
right during the draft, we'll do the draft, and then you go on. It'll be lit up. That'd be perfect.
I was gonna say I could host the draft for you if you want, and then
MC the thing. Yeah.
Roast as we go.
Roast as you go. That is perfect.
Rip into it. Yeah. No, and Montana is one of the 5 states left that I haven't been to.
Oh, man. Come on.
And we're planning on a trip to Alaska. Maybe we could just parlay it. We'll go right from Montana to Alaska, and go up there. We got a couple of friends up there we want to tape with, and I got a sack tap of moose.
Yeah.
So we could do that all in one trip. We got to get on that, Gino.
Yeah, I'm already slated for Utah in July too, so we can have a nice long vacation.
Utah, that. Heck yeah. That's
Utah's
only a
another
5.5
one.
hour drive from here.
Yeah, right.
Like Salt Lake City's 5.5 from me.
Yeah, it's impossible.
I'm an hour west of Bozeman.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I could hit them all. Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Alaska.
There you
Those
go.
are 4 of them. And then I'll leave Arkansas because who wants to go there? You know? I don't think there's anything in
You want to go to
Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Nope. No. Well, this has been awesome, Kev. We really appreciate you coming on. There was one thing I didn't get to, which was my favorite video of Michael Frolik after you smoked him into the bench. I don't know if you remember this.
I do,
And
yeah.
he turns and he's all fired up, and you just shook your glove. You fucking beeline to the bench. I love that video.
Yeah, that was
Absolutely
you know
love
that
that.
was when Kachuk was with the Flames still, and I was really
Yes.
hoping he was gonna
He was right
partake.
there too.
Yeah.
He was right
He was
there.
right-
Like,
yeah.
that was really like one of those ones where like a freebie where it would have been. I would have loved that. But just good on him. He's a good player, but man, I would have loved to beat the wheels off that guy.
How about him fighting pasta?
Oh, that's what I mean. For stuff
Right,
like
what are
that,
you doing,
like,
right?
gosh, really? Like,
Right.
that's why, like, those are the moments. I don't miss the game that much, but, like, those are the moments where I'm like, oh, man.
Right.
Like, call me, Sweens, just give me a 24-hour contract. Like, I just need about 4 minutes on the ice. I'll be just fine. Next for the game, let's do this. You know?
That would have been awesome.
But
That
no,
would have been
that's-
awesome.
Yeah, those are the ones I miss for sure. But
Yeah, he's definitely one that needs the bag beat out of him.
yeah,
For sure.
Little humble pie.
Hey, Ryan,
Yeah, for sure.
But before we go, are you rapping?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're right.
I mean, unless you have something else.
Yeah, I was just gonna add one thing before we end.
Oh, no, go
I was,
ahead.
I was thinking just because it's Chirping Zebras and your connection to Marshy, who's the best chirper? Who's the best at chirping in the NHL that you've come across? Is it Marshy?
It's by
Because,
far
like,
Marshy.
Yes.
I
Like,
mean,
even-
there's not even another guy that's even close.
No.
Honestly, and this is going back to like the days of who's like Sean Avery and all whatever. Like Marshy is 10 times better. There were multiple times where and this is before the mics and everything like that, where there are mics everywhere. Like, I got to look over at Marshy and be like, hey, dude, you can't say that. Don't say that.
No, I get
He's like, exactly. I'm like, because now I got to fight that guy. Can you just keep it in your mouth tonight? Like, just, and the next thing you know, he's cross-checking. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, I got it. Now I got to go talk to that guy. Like, please, but no, Marshy by far. And I think it's just like his nature, man. He's just like, there's no stages of chirping for Marshy. It's not like, well, he said this, so I got to go to here. So then he says, oh, well, I got to go to. Marshy's just like, this guy says this, and then Marshy's like way up here. And so he just doesn't even give the guy the chance to, like, you can't say anything back. And so it was extremely, extremely comical to play with that guy, and I loved
Because he seems like he just doesn't turn off. Like, even that year that I worked for EEI and I was around the team a lot and stuff, like, I feel like I quote Marshy with things where people don't even know I'm quoting him, because it was things like off camera or off mic or something, and just hearing him walk down the hallway talking to somebody, I'm like, that was genius.
Yeah, he's so witty and so quick that there's just no there's no messing with that guy. Like, if you're gonna pick a fight with that guy, good luck, because like he's gonna win and then he's gonna score. And you just fired him up, so you might as well leave the guy alone, because it's like, don't say anything to him, don't look at him, because it's not gonna end well. He's gonna beat you in the chirping battle, and then he's gonna score. Like, it's almost like, if you watch now from now on, just like, you'll pay attention. If Marshy gets like run, or like something shitty happens to him, or like they trip him, or like anything like that, he's gonna score that night.
Right.
He's gonna
Yeah.
get on the point. He's gonna get on the scoreboard in some way or shape or form, and he's gonna have an awesome game.
That's
No
how
way
he was
around.
that game. I ended up, he started a line brawl, and I think he
Yeah.
had like 2 or 3 goals, or he was involved in 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm middle of the line change. He's chirping the bench. Kid from Portland hops off and jumps him.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
he absolutely loves it. So, yeah.
That's when I did the chirping clinic for the CCM Hockey House. Patrice came, and so we got a bunch of kids there, and I said, I'm teaching them how to talk shit, which was kind of funny. The younger kids were like, "Why are we going to be mean to each other?" I'm like, "It's hockey. Shut up." And Patrice came, and so I said, "Hey, Patrice, for the kids, like, what was your best chirp?" And he goes, "Oh, I just leave that to Marshy. I don't chirp. I just leave it to him. He's my best go-to." And it was funny.
That's awesome.
Very funny.
Yeah, truer words have never been spoken. I don't think
Right?
I don't think Bergie had to say anything ever.
No. That's all. And who was? We were going to wrap it, but I got to ask this question because you bring up who was the best player that you ever played with? Was it Bergeron? Was it Marshy? Was it
Yeah.
Pasta? I know it's a terrible question.
No,
it really
it's
is a
not.
terrible
No,
question.
because I've never thought about it that way. Like who is? I've never been asked that. So who's the best player? Is Bergie for sure.
Okay.
And Pasta's a phenomenal player. Like don't get me wrong, Pasta will go down like for sure. But all around best player is Bergie, and I don't think that I don't even have to think about it. It's Bergie for sure. And then you have your guys that flow underneath that a little bit, but like close second, I would say close second. And Pasta can prove me wrong because he's still got so much career in front of him. But like Marshy's a Hall of Famer in my opinion. Like no ifs, ands, or buts, right? Like
100%.
And so like and they're I watched him, and then Krejci, man, like Krejci is freaking unreal. Like he does stuff with the puck that like and then you throw Big Z in like so I'm so fortunate I get to play with so many of these guys that like and have close relationships with them. It just I'm so fortunate for that.
We want to thank you for coming on, man. This has been an absolute honor to have you on.
Yes.
And like I said, you were one of those Bruins that we all love watching play.
Yep.
And you were kind of a heart and soul guy. But that's going to do episode 50. Halfway to 100, Gino.
Right.
Halfway through 100. It only took us a year.
A year.
I mean, we're right on pace here. So make sure you like and subscribe. I forgot to mention that at the beginning on the YouTube. Make sure you find us on the social medias, the Instagram, Facebook, and of course the TikTok. We want to thank Referees Crease, our sponsor, the Referees Crease, one-stop shop for all your refereeing needs. Thank AOA Studios for all their help and doing what they do, and for Josh Dolan, our producer extraordinaire, Gino Benda Jr., for our guest Kevan Miller. I'm Mark Riley saying thanks a lot. We'll see you next time right here on the Chirping Zebras.